Show Global Network right here on HotlineRadio.net. Of course, I'm your host, Keith Harris. I'd like to thank everybody internationally and globally for tuning in today. It's a wonderful thing. Now, listen, without any further ado, very special person on the line right now. I waited a while to be able to speak for this multi-talented person. Denise Gossett, how you doing?
I am doing great, Keith. Thank you for having me on.
I'm excited. I'm honored to have you on. As a matter of fact, glad you're here. So
Oh, thank you.
so I guess I'll start out by saying how you doing today.
Oh, I'm doing great. Busy, but all good. It's all good.
I know it's good to be busy, right?
Yes.
Okay, now look, there's so many different listen, there's so many different ways that I could go. Okay, but we'll start out talking about Shriek Fest in general.
Okay.
Okay. Tell us about how Shriek Fest came to be.
Well, okay. I'm an actor, as we were chatting about a little bit earlier in the week. And I had 15 years ago starred in a horror film, and I wanted it to be out there for the world, of course. That's
Uh-huh.
what actors do.
Right.
And so I wanted it in film festivals. And I had spoken with the casting, or the producer and director, and asked them if perhaps they could submit to horror film festivals. And they told me that there weren't any. And I was really kind of surprised. I said, how can that be? There's so many horror fans. How could there not be horror film festivals?
Really?
So I started looking around, and I found one in Europe, and I couldn't find any in the States. And so I told my sister-in-law my silly, crazy idea, and she's like, let's do it. And we thought we'd put together this little hobby and do something on the side. And little did we know, it blew up.
And what year? And again, what year did you guys start that?
Our first one was 2001.
Now that's amazing. That you even like you said, it is many horror movies that have been out over time that they had no horror film festival.
I know, it was a shame. I think there were maybe some film festivals that had like a small horror category,
Uh-huh.
but there weren't any dedicated to horror. Now they're like on every corner. They're like a Starbucks. They're everywhere.
Well, and that's amazing because I think to myself like what it makes me wonder what has there been more of than horror films, right?
Oh, I
Like,
know. I know, because they're cheap and
uh-huh.
everyone makes them. It seems most filmmakers, that's their first film is a horror film.
Right. Now, how did you originally get into the entertainment industry, Denise?
It's weird because ever since I was little, I always told everyone I'm gonna either act, dance, or sing, but I never did anything about it. Like I was in a dance class when I was little, and I would sing and pretend like I was in a band sort of thing, but I never really did anything about it.
Uh-huh.
And let's see, in high school I did a play, and I was hooked. And then the colleges were coming around saying that they were auditioning for drama scholarships, theater scholarships, and I always say naivete will take you far because what you don't know can't stop you.
Right.
And I didn't know anything, so I was like, sure, I'll audition. And of course, I'm sure I was absolutely horrible, but bless their hearts, they gave me partial scholarship with the ability to be able to audition again the next year and try to get more scholarship. And I almost got all my 4 years paid for.
Wow. And
It was crazy.
and from there, it's like you just never looked back. The roles just started to roll in because see, you also did commercials and things like that too, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I went to college in Florida and was doing all kinds of plays. And then, of course, I got an agent and started learning that side. And I started doing commercials and industrial films and little student films and things like that. And then I booked the TV series Superboy, which was shooting in Florida.
Uh-huh.
And I played Lex Luthor's sister.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so that's when things started to I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So my plan was to graduate college and work a year so I had a lot of money saved up and move to LA. And that is what I did. I didn't know anyone there. I had no place lined up, literally just driving the streets saying, where should I live?
Right. And at one point in time, you would declare LA's most successful um most successful and entertaining horror film festival by LA Weekly too, right? Like that's huge.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
How did that look? I want to say how did it feel? I know it felt great, but was it at all some sort of surprise for you? I know you believed in your work, but how did it hit you?
Oh yeah, it was such a surprise because honestly, when I think of Shriekfest, I don't think of it as we just celebrated our 14th year. I still think of it as this tiny thing that me and my sister-in-law started, and when she had a baby, she moved to Michigan and was not in it anymore. But it's just been this tiny festival that I have done, but if you ask people, they're like, no, are you kidding? You helped me get distribution. You helped me get an agent. All these things, but I don't think of it that way. It's so weird. So when that came, yeah, of course I didn't believe it.
Right. Because for you, it's like just an average day at work, right?
Right.
Understand it. Now, talking about, and I'm going to just kind of bounce back and forth a little bit, but a few films that you've been in. I mean, listen, you've been in tons of shows. Like I did my research. You're all over the map. Like really, like Getting to Gringo, for instance. One of a lot of people's favorite movies. How was it doing that film?
Oh, it was amazing. Just so amazing. We shot it in Mexico City.
Okay.
And of course, and people before I flew there were, warning me that, okay, you're going to be the only blonde white person there.
Right.
And there's a lot of crime there, so be careful. And I was like, what? No. And hardly anyone speaks English. And, my driver didn't speak English, so I had to, reach way back to high school and college Spanish and try to communicate. And then on set, the director was bilingual.
Okay.
And all of the crew, no one spoke English.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Now, what about your backup? Now, what about the rest of the crew?
No, nobody spoke English. Of course, Mel and the cast, everyone was English. We all spoke English, but everyone spoke Spanish. And so, we'd be filming and you'd hear cortamos instead of cuts.
And you're like, what?
And, yeah, the first time that happened, I'm like, oh, this is going to be very weird.
Yeah.
And, they're micing you and they don't speak English. And it was amazing how I could remember from high school and be able to communicate.
Okay. Now,
and of course, the director spoke English, so when he would come over and give direction, it would be in English. And when I would talk to Mel or Peter Stormare, all of them spoke English, so it was fine. But it was just an amazing experience. I got to work with Mel Gibson, and I got to work with Peter Stormare and Bob Gunton from Shawshank Redemption. All these amazing people. Right. It was so much fun.
Wow, I can imagine. Now, has there, besides the fact of, in that particular one on the language, has there ever been a role out of so many different roles that you've played? Has there ever been a role that has just flat out given you a hard time?
Not that I've played.
Awesome.
That I've auditioned for. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Sometimes they just do, or sometimes it's not the role that's giving you a hard time. Sometimes it's like a paragraph of dialogue. Okay. And it's like, why is this paragraph giving me such a hard time? And when that does happen, what I do is I'll usually break it down in many different ways. I'll record it on video and listen to it, because sometimes listening to it will trigger something and you're like, oh, okay, now I get why I'm struggling with this or whatever. And then I'll write it out too in cursive. I'll write it out. For some reason that helps kind of break it down in the brain. Mm-hmm. But it's weird because there are definitely, sometimes I'll get an audition and a lot of things are on tape now.
Okay.
So you have to memorize.
Now, is that any easier? Because I know I think about myself when, if I go to audition for something, a lot of times I'll get a script and I'll come home and I'll record it. And I think to myself, just like a song, that, maybe if I play this over and over again, it'll stick in my mind. Doesn't work for me like that. I have to keep it.
It doesn't? You know what you need to probably try, Keith, is going for a walk and listening to it, or going for a run. Because there's something that happens in the brain when we are physical and trying to remember. It's amazing, really.
Okay. I haven't tried that. I can kind of see I can kind of see that because it kind of, I can imagine where it would give you a different concentration level, I suppose.
Yes, yes. It's very weird. I don't know why it works. And I only stumbled on that by accident.
Uh-huh.
One of my first years out in LA, I had met with an agent, and I think he was trying to get rid of me. So he told me, come back in after the Christmas break and have memorized 5 minutes worth of different monologues. And I want them all to be about 30 seconds.
What?
So, so I went home and I memorized, and what I was doing when I was visiting my parents is I went on their treadmill and just started memorizing, and I realized, wow, I'm remembering this stuff very easily. And it was because of the movement, too. But, yeah, I went back and I did all this stuff. I'm not even sure the guy watched them because he wanted me to tape them all. It was pathetic what he put me through.
Oh, wow. I can imagine he's looking nowadays like, wow. You know what I mean?
Let's hope.
Yeah, right. I'm sure he is. Now, so many different TV shows. The Office, New Adventures of Old Christine. I mean, some of my favorites, as a matter of fact. But now, what I want to ask about is the Michael. Look, and stop me if you've done so much. Stop me if you can't remember something that I'm getting ready to say. But like the Michael Jackson trial on E. What did you do in that? Like, what was that about?
That was crazy. It was literally a reenactment of the whole Michael Jackson trial.
What?
And yes, it was crazy. And I played the woman who was the woman in charge of all of the maids he had.
Uh-huh.
So at one point she was called onto the stand to talk about his character and what the maids had witnessed and blah, blah, blah. And so literally the trial was happening.
Uh-huh.
They would take everything from the trial that day, and then this show would shoot everything the next day.
Okay,
it was really crazy.
So now, wait a minute. So this was kind of, sorry to cut you off. So this was kind of as the trial was happening?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was really weird. It didn't air, it aired after the trial, I believe.
Right.
But yes, it was everything taken directly from the court.
So that must have been kind of riveting inside the soul itself, right? To just have to, with as heavy as that was, did that affect you guys that were doing this film? Did that kind of, did it kind of affect you on the inside? Was there a scary feeling on the inside? I know you're used to horror movies, but wow.
Yeah, no, it was because, everybody loved Michael Jackson.
Right.
And to think that could he? Is he? What is going on?
Yeah.
Of course, it was horrible and sad, and they had a lookalike for him. So right there in the courtroom, you look up and you see Michael Jackson.
Wow.
During this whole shoot, it was a very bizarre situation.
I can imagine. Now, another show that I want to talk about. We'll go into the upcoming films and stuff lately. A lot of stuff to talk about. Untold Stories of the ER.
Yeah, that's another one of those weird reenactments. I went through this period where it's like every reenactment show was hiring me. Yeah. And I got to the point where I had to turn them down.
Okay.
I was like, I don't, you feel like it's partial acting because you're reenacting things, and it just got weird, and I finally just started telling my agent, look, I don't want to do any more of these, and I had to stop. But that one was real stories that really happened in ERs, around the country.
Yeah.
And, I believe I played nurses in that one. God, I don't even remember.
I guess eventually, like you say, with one to kind of fall out of those roles, eventually, maybe they just kind of take a toll on you. I can imagine sometimes that can kind of take a toll on you when you keep having to deal with these real life situations, like you say.
Right. And you don't feel like it's enough for you to sink your teeth into. So because so much of it would go from the real people talking, and then they bounce to the reenactment and back to the real people. So often you felt like, I don't know. I can't explain why it got old, but it did.
Yeah, I can almost imagine that, because I know just, sometimes I wonder to myself, just even the people who actually go to work and really do that every day, sometimes I wonder do they ever have to take those feelings home with them? You know what I'm saying? So it kind of puts you in that position also, having to reenact that. So that's amazing. Now, what type, okay, you know, you're a genius at your craft. But now, what type are there any particular roles that you like to play? Now, whether you've actually played one of those roles or whether you hope to play one of these roles in the future, what are your favorite kind of characters? Are they, you know, are they kind of slick? Are they smooth? Are they conniving? Like, what are some of your favorite roles to play?
You know, it's interesting because I can, like, I did a lot of Nickelodeon TV series for a while there, and I loved playing those roles, but they were always, you know, usually they're more tame, although my my sister-in-law, she always jokes with me saying I'm typecast because I play a lot of the, like a mean person.
Oh, kind of straight-faced.
Which is interesting because if you look at me, like I look more like the wholesome mother,
right?
Sort of look. But I do both. But I do enjoy being the mean person.
Yeah.
Tough. I like to play tough. Like cops are fun, detectives are fun.
Yeah, like that kind of serious role, kind of like I'm telling you what to do, or you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I understand. Now, okay, going into some upcoming films. Talking about starting with The Cellar Door, Playmate 2, for instance, if you could talk about that. You know, can you talk about what character you play or kind of where that movie's going?
That is a sequel to The Cellar Door, which actually was in Shriekfest, goodness, I want to say like 2008, 2009, and it ended up winning Best Horror Feature.
Oh, wow.
And it is great. The acting is phenomenal. It's really, really great. Michelle Tomlinson, James Dumont, and the director Matt Zattel, everyone involved with it, just very well done. So if anyone's out there listening and hasn't seen it and they're a horror fan, definitely check it out. Okay. And so years went by and they approached me. It's funny because I did not start Shriekfest to get acting work. It was not... Matter of fact, the first few years I didn't even tell anyone I was an actor because I didn't want people to think, oh, she's doing this, to get roles.
And people didn't already know that?
No, well, maybe they did, but they sure didn't act like it.
Okay.
And so, you know, through the years I've been offered different things, and I've always turned it down. And they contact me and they say they're going to do a part 2. Well, I already know the quality that these people pull out, and I know it's really high. So I said, sure, I'd love to read the script. Well, she is, the serial killer from part 1 is now in prison. And my character is the psychologist who deals with him, you know, on a daily, weekly basis. And as soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh, this could be really cool.
Right.
Having to deal with, you know, such a corrupted mind as his. And so that's what it is. And we've had a few table reads. They've raised some money. They're trying to raise more, but the plan is to shoot it in 2015. And I know they will because they're major go-getters. But it's a really great script. It's different. Right.
Now, like you say, okay, you know, when you look at, you know, when you look at you, and you see you know, you're smiling, you know, you look casual, classy and everything. Now, when you go into horror, okay, when you're doing these horror films, like, okay, first of all, have you've killed some people, I'm assuming, or have you been killed? Stabbed, shot, anything?
You know, I was shot once, but it wasn't in a horror film.
Okay.
And I don't think that movie ever got finished because I haven't seen it.
Okay.
And I think that's the only time. So it's not, I haven't been in that many horror films.
Yeah. Okay. Now, all right. So now, talking about My Heart Dies With You. That's coming out in 2016?
Yes.
Is that?
That is it's a 3-part movie.
Okay.
And it's about...
You're Nurse Carpenter, right?
Yes. When people die... or dealing with death, rather. Like, my character helps this woman who is dying, and she knows she's dying, and she has this young son and no family. So I help her find someone who can take in this boy. And it's, you know, gut-wrenching and sad, and some of it's going to be shot in Louisiana or Texas, and then some of it's going to be shot in Scotland.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to so you're going to be going out to Scotland to do some of the filming. Have you been to Scotland already?
I have not. I have not.
That's going to be beautiful, I assume.
I'm sure. Yeah. No, it's really exciting, and the director seems extremely passionate about it, and I think it's going to be great.
Okay. Now, I know you're going to give me the modest side of this. Now, listen, you were voted number 5. Right, okay. Out of 13, and again, this is a major, this is a major deal because horror films, there's a lot of them. I mean, horror films are a big deal. You were voted number 5 out of 13 most influential women in horror history. Denise?
I know, it's ridiculous, huh?
History.
When I heard that, I absolutely thought it was a joke.
Man.
I mean, as a matter of fact, I ignored it for so long because I thought it was a joke. And then more and more people kept asking about it. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Who did this? And then I think it was like maybe a year and a half after that it was announced that someone had told me that it was a group, or a very large group of horror people got together and were sitting around talking about making this list. And my name kept coming up. And I was like, what? How is that possible? And I was told that because I've helped so many people through the years of Shriekfest, that's why it kept coming up. But, the people on that list are Anne Rice.
Man.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm. Sorry to cut you off, but that's what I'm saying. No. To get that, to get that compliment and to receive that had to be a big deal. Like, I mean, you're talking horror history now. That's huge.
I know. Honestly, I still don't believe it. Wow. I mean, I was truly and still am shocked. And grateful. I mean, it's amazing, but yeah. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it.
Right, and especially to be able to, not to say that the industry is necessarily male driven or anything, but to get that honor in being, just being a female in the industry like that, had its own bar set to it as well. Right.
Catherine Bigelow was on the list.
Oh wow.
I mean, it was almost like when I saw it, I truly thought it was a joke because I'm like, what is my name doing with these awesome ladies?
Yeah. And so you had, and so that's how it is. You had you really had no idea of necessarily where it came from.
No.
But
no, I think it was horror.com or it was some huge horror site. And they had taken a poll or something, and I don't know. I don't know. I think it was a mistake. Maybe it was supposed to be some other Denise out there.
No, they got it right. They got it right. Now Shriekfest, the radio show.
Okay. Oh yes.
What's going on there?
Okay. Let's see. I think it's been on the air now for 2.5 years. And what happened is the producers from Live Paranormal kept pursuing me and wanting me to do a radio show. And I kept saying, no, I'm too busy, I don't have time, I'm sorry, can't happen. So they kind of let it drop for a little while, and then a couple months later, and they're bugging me again about it. And I was like, no, you don't understand, I don't have time for this. And he said, okay, what if I get you a host, and you just line up the guest? And I thought that was kind of cool because we can bring on all the filmmakers and screenwriters that have been in Shriekfest, and how cool to give them some extra publicity.
Right.
So it started out that way, and it was great, and our hostess was great, and Jamie then had a baby.
Okay.
And very sweetly was like, Denise, I can't do it anymore. I'm like, I understand. I understand. So then the plan was that I was going to fill in for a few till they found someone.
Right.
And they never found anyone. And now 2 years later, I'm still doing it.
You think that was you think that could have been part of the plan, Denise?
I don't know. It's a cruel plan, but although I will say I do enjoy doing it. There are times where I'm like, oh man, I got to do that tonight. But every time I do it, I have a blast, and I learn so much about people. You know, and it's amazing, Keith, and I'm sure you've experienced this. There are people that come on the show who have never been interviewed, and they're terrified. And so to be there first and to be gentle and talk them through it, and it's great. And afterwards, they're like, "Oh my gosh, it wasn't hard at all."
Right.
I said, "That's what I told you. It would be fine."
Right. I went through that the first time I was interviewed. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm saying? I was kind of I was kind of shook up, and it got me too, because while we were in the middle of my interview, all of a sudden the person that was doing the interview went into like some different kind of character, and yeah, and they switched up on me, and I'm like, okay, but you know, it was real. That's funny. Yeah, it was fun though. It was interesting. So you all have on the radio show, like, you bring different producers and different people that's involved in the horror industry, or?
Yeah, well, I try to keep it to for now anyway, until I get through everyone that wants to do it. I try to keep it to people who've been in the festival. Okay. Been a finalist screenplay. So I'll have the screenwriters, I'll have the filmmakers, sometimes I have the directors or the producers. I've had actors from some of the films. And so it's all about the whole Shriekfest family. Right. And it helps get the word out for them. It gets them extra publicity, gets them practice of doing interviews. But eventually, yes, because I know a lot of people in horror, so I would like to open it up to, you know, other horror people. But for now, I'm kind of keeping it as strictly Shriekfest people. Right.
And what let everybody out there listening know where they can check out the show. Or when.
Sure. It's every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, for an hour. And if you go to shriekfest.com, you can click on the little radio icon, and it will take you to the link of the show that night, because it changes week to week. So yeah, so that's, and then during the show, I'll post the actual real link of where it is, so that people can, and it's all archived, ends up on iTunes and stuff, so people can find it.
Okay. Now, you're so busy with, you know, with acting and roles. Do you ever see yourself going into maybe producing, directing, or writing one day?
You know, for years now, people have been begging me to produce, because they say, you know, you can handle this film festival, you can handle a film, which is probably true. But do I have the desire to do that? Not so much. But I tell people, if I were going to produce, it would have to be something like such an amazing story that I'm extremely passionate about, because you know you're going to live with it for probably 5 years. Right. And it's got to be something I'm going to star in. Okay. So
you're gonna make yourself. You mean you're gonna write yourself in as a star, or you feel like you have to do it, or just is that where you want to be?
That's what. Well, yeah. If I'm going to spend the time and effort producing something, it better be to showcase me too.
You know what? That is some of the real. That is one of the realest statements that I've heard. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people won't actually come out and say that, but that makes perfect sense. I probably would do the same thing, like put myself, you know, because that would be the key time. Like, you know, going back to the question I asked before, that would kind of be the perfect time for you to play that person that you've always wanted to be.
Right. Yeah. Right, exactly. So I'm always on the lookout for great scripts with a killer role for me. And plus, if I'm extremely passionate and producing it, then that is taking my sole focus for those 3 to 5 years. I may as well be acting in it too, because that's my first love.
Exactly.
As for writing, I've tried. I've sat down and tried. Like, I have a few ideas, but it just doesn't seem to come out right, and I don't enjoy it. It's more of a hassle. Yeah. So I may, like, some of my ideas, I may just have to sit down with someone else and see if they can write it for me.
Right. Kind of like, yeah, I always thought about that sometimes when I think to myself, maybe I could write a book one day, and I'm like, I can't write no book. Like, I gotta sit.
Well, you probably could.
Well, yeah, could, but, you know, like you say, have someone, you know, like I be telling them what to write, and then they just be writing it for me.
Right, exactly. And then they can put it in the proper words, and you don't have to worry about, you know, all of that. Yeah. You can just tell them what you want to say.
Right. Okay, now I'm gonna call you Miss Jones on this one. You know, if you know where I'm going with this one. Wait, did you see the light? Coming on that, but yeah.
I saw the light. Yes.
Right. So what about that?
I got back a couple weeks ago from Shreveport. We were shooting it there.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, it stars Tom Hiddleston, who was Loki in the Avengers.
Okay.
And he's in Thor, and he has a crazy fan base. Let me tell you, because now they're all becoming my fans because I'm in his movie. It's so weird. It's cracking me up, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I have people from Italy and Brazil and all over the U.S. that are now following me on Twitter,
Right.
friending me on Facebook, all because I'm in his movie.
Okay.
So the movie is about Hank Williams.
Okay.
And Tom plays Hank. Now, Tom is British.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, when this first came out that he was going to be playing Hank Williams, one of our, you know, our Southern greats, country music,
Right.
people were like, a Brit? What?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, Tom is the type of guy that is going to work his butt off. And he started working with a coach to teach him all the little inflections of singing the way Hank Williams, you know, sang, because you know, he definitely had a certain style.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're doing this, and I think it was the beginning of this year, they were at a music festival.
Mm-hmm.
And Rob, his coach, wanted Tom to get up and perform in front of 20,000 people just to see what it's like so he knows for the movie.
Oh, wow. Had he done it before?
Yeah. Yes, and playing Hank. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
So he did it, and he ended up doing 3 songs. And on set, Tom played them for me. Oh my gosh, he sounds exactly like Hank Williams. It's unbelievable, down to every little inflection. Hank Williams was much thinner than Tom, so he's been, you know,
right.
Drinking a lot of green shakes to lose weight and get down thinner, and he's doing an amazing job. And I will be surprised if he doesn't get some sort of award nomination.
Oh wow, that's going to be huge. So and like you said, that's you guys are shooting. So now is that project done as well, or is it still?
It's almost done. I think they only have about a few more days of shooting.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, all right, Chain of Souls. And
that was the horror film that I starred in that gave me the idea to start Shriekfest.
Hey.
And it's not good. I'm such a bad actor in that movie.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I always tell people, don't go see it. Just please don't try to find it. Don't rent it. Nothing.
I think
it's got like a weird following now. I think it's because I'm in it.
I was going to say, Denise, you might be too late on that one. You telling people don't go see it. I think quite a few people have seen that movie.
Yes, they have, unfortunately.
Right. So I haven't. I don't know. Like maybe that's your critique on it. I haven't heard any really bad reviews on that movie, as a matter of fact. So you know, but so that inspired you kind of because did it inspire you because you kind of got into the whole horror thing itself, or?
Well, I've always liked horror, and I don't know. It is the weirdest thing. You know, sometimes things just happen in life, and we didn't plan them. Because God knows I did not plan Shriekfest. It literally just came and took over my life.
Hey, a lot of other people's too.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, if I had sat down and said, I am going to start a horror film festival and make it successful, it may not have played out the way this did. It was like just something that was meant to be. You know what?
Let me ask you that. This brings me to this. What did it feel? How did you feel your first, like the first opening of your first, of your first night doing Shriekfest? Like, what was it like to you? Did it go right? Were you really? Well, I'm assuming it went right, but were you really nervous? Like, was it that pressure?
Yeah, we were nervous because we didn't know anything. We didn't know what we were doing. Shoot, I'd only been to one other film festival. I didn't even know what I was doing. Although we knew to be on time. We knew to keep our schedule. We knew to treat people right. And when it comes down to it, I think that's really what matters the most, is treating people right.
Absolutely. Right. And so people, but going to it, had you already, the one that you had been to before, did that kind of give you the knowledge, or where did you just get the knowledge of just how it was even supposed to be done? Like, did you pick it up along the way, or?
Well, what's crazy, yeah, basically picked up along the way. The one that I had been to, I went to see a friend's film. It's like I couldn't have picked a worse film festival to go to. I don't even remember what the name was or even if it's still around. However, the film we were supposed to see, it was late in starting. And a matter of fact, it was so late, it ended up being over an hour late that we finally gave up and did not stay to watch the movie.
What? You didn't even stay to watch the movie?
No, because we didn't know when it was going to start.
Yeah.
They kept going, oh, well, we still got time, and it had already been like an hour and 20 minutes, and we're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
So, you know, that is definitely a way we knew we didn't want to do it. And, you know, filmmakers, they talk.
Right.
So the filmmakers that came my first year, we obviously treated them right because they spread the word. And this was back before social media. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter. There wasn't even MySpace. So there was still internet, and that is how we started getting the word out. We've never paid for advertising. But what I started doing is I would go to different horror sites and say, hey, do you want to exchange links? And they did. And so slowly the name got out there, and people started going, what is this about? And then people started, like the first year we only got 45 submissions, but we put the festival up in 2 months, which was ridiculous. Once again, there's that naivete.
Right. Of just going with it.
Yeah. And then the next year, you know, I think we were up over 200 submissions, and it's just been growing ever since then. It was just crazy.
So it is that much. And, you know, I actually noticed kind of, you know, given what I do now, you know, with the show and stuff, I have noticed myself just how many horror filmmakers there are out there. But you talk about over 200, like there's really that many being done, like that many submissions. That's a lot.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And we get way more than that now. It's crazy. And what really is mind-boggling is, let's say I look at a horror film festival in New York or something, and I'll see their press release of their lineup. They might have a film in their festival that we never got.
Oh,
so I'm like, wow. So somewhere we're not tapping into wherever that guy, or he missed our deadline because his film wasn't done yet, and that happens a lot.
Right. I hear about that, as a matter of fact, happening.
Yeah.
Now, what is out of 200 films, is there, or so many films, I should say, not necessarily 200, but is there a basic amount of films that get picked, or can it vary?
It varies a little bit, but basically it breaks down to 10 features make it in, which is really, really hard.
That's tough.
Yeah. And about approximately 32 short films, depending on the length. Sometimes there's 34, sometimes there's 30.
These people are battling really hard with that many submissions and knowing that there could very well be, you know, only that many making it. I mean, these people really have to believe in their work, and that's a good thing.
Keith, it's crazy because there are good films that don't make the cut because there's not enough time.
Wow.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking, really. I can't stand it when I have to tell people their film didn't make it in, and I know it's a good film.
Yeah, and it could be the smallest thing sometimes, like maybe editing might not be done, or just
No,
different
it's
little
not
things.
even that. It literally will come down to, I have 40 judges, and they'll go, well, why didn't it get it in? And I'm like, well, it literally came down to they preferred this one over yours. If you take everything equal about them films,
Right.
there's going to be one story that speaks to you a little bit more.
Right. And it's taken 40 people actually come together to basically narrow it down to what all of them actually like. That's amazing.
Right.
And you know what? And that's fair. That's fair. Because no one, out of 40 people, no one can say that that there wasn't different opinions on the matter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's cool. And here's something else too. Okay. And I hope I'm saying this right. The 2010 Movie Maker Magazine's top 25 film festival worthy entry fee. Now that's a big deal too, because that's saying that these people who working hard on these films, it was actually worth it to enter your film festival.
Yes. It's funny because, like I said, it breaks my heart when I have to reject the people who submit. And I have been told that I send out the nicest rejection letter.
Oh, wow.
I have been told by filmmakers that they will continue submitting to Shriekfest even though they didn't get in because of how nice I was to them.
Right, and classy and professional about it, and still making them feel like their work was worthy. Like that is a big deal,
Right.
Denise.
Right.
Because they have to go with, in the industry, or almost anything that a person does, people have to be able to accept the fact that, hey, I didn't do it this time, but it doesn't crush their feelings in general. So
Right. It's really hard because, filmmakers, they're entrusting me with their baby.
right,
And, when we reject their baby, it's crushing to them. But, like I always tell them, I say, I'm an actor. I'm rejected every day, all day long.
mm-hmm.
You can't let it get to you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I went to that, again, talking about auditions and stuff like that. I used to go to auditions, and, I would come back, and, the people that are around you or closest to you, they're like, well, did you get it? Or did you this? And then they,
Right.
I used to go through where they thought that they had to kind of feel bad for me. And I used to explain to them, well, that's just how it is. Like, you do that and you keep moving on. Like, you can't let it get to you emotionally, and you can't expect to really get them all. This just comes with the territory.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get to the point when you audition, yes, you would love the part,
Mm-hmm.
but your life is not going to fall apart if you don't get it.
Exactly. You keep going. Now Fright Club, for a minute. You were in that as well.
Yes.
Okay.
That is an anthology of 3 different horror stories, and there's a wraparound amongst the 3 stories to connect them together, and I'm in the wraparound.
Okay.
And that is a very popular horror film too.
How do you know that these films are not popular?
Because people will send emails or.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably a few of the people. Well, I don't know. Do they actually do that? Like so what is that considered something that it's kind of like a feedback session where you guys go through just to see what people think or something, or?
No, I honestly, Keith, it is the strangest thing. I do not understand this industry when it comes to this aspect of fans. I don't understand it. Like I was saying, all these people are now following me because I'm in Tom Hiddleston's movie.
Right.
When I did get the Gringo, you would not believe, like, people were posting on Twitter how much they loved it. Well, I would see that and I'd retweet it. Well, then they'd follow me. And if I followed them back, they would say, oh my God, Denise Gossett is following me on Twitter. This is so amazing.
Right.
I'm like, what is so amazing? I'm just a person.
Yeah.
And I don't think I will ever understand the whole fan thing. So some of these films get fans, and you can't even explain the amount of passion people have for things.
Yeah, and the type of things that, I do that sometimes. Well, I notice that sometimes. I could be sitting at home at night, and I'll be looking through movies, and I'm reading the reviews on the movies. And like you say, people will, you could tell that they really express some sort of emotion to it. And
Right.
and what I had to learn, though, eventually what I figured out, though, was that I still had to actually check the movie out myself. Because
Right, because some of them, they're like in love with movies that aren't even good.
and some of them don't like movies that are good.
Right.
So yeah, so
Yep.
that happens. That happens. Again, it's something else that I guess kind of goes with the territory itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, okay. You've been dealing with the entertainment business for a long time, and you're still going. You get better and better and better as time goes on. Has there ever came a time, even if just once, where you felt like saying, hey, you know what, I need a break?
Yes. Every year after Shriekfest, I want to quit it. Every year. Every year. I threaten to quit. It's crazy because it just takes everything out of me. Acting-wise, there have definitely been days where I just get so frustrated. Like, if I go through a period where I'm not working or I'm auditioning a lot and nothing's clicking, yes, there's days where I'm like, you know what, I've had it with this business. These people they're not treating me the way they should be treating me. I'm busting my butt. Yes, there are those self-pity days. And then it's always inevitable. Either a few few hours later, I pick myself up and I'm like, I'll show them.
Yeah.
Or it's the next morning where I'm like, what was I thinking yesterday? Why was I so troubled by this?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think everybody goes through that because it is such a rough business.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, the longer I've done it, like now, I audition, I go about my life. I rarely look back and go, I wonder why didn't I book that? Like, I rarely will do that.
Right. Well, I mean, I think with all the things that you have booked, though, but then you've been in this business, what, 20 years?
Yeah.
Wow. So.
And I know that if the role is for me, I'm getting it.
There you go. There you go.
If it's not the right one for me, I'm not going to get it. And the more you stress about things like that, the tougher it's going to be. The more you just trust, there's a plan for me. I don't know what it is, but I'm along for the ride, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Now, with the tight, the strenuous, well, not strenuous, but with the heavy schedule that you have with filming and things like that, when it's time for Shriek Fest to come around, do you find that do you have to reschedule or and put things off, or are you kind of in the same areas where Shriek Fest is going on? How do you pull that off?
Well, I used to do that. Like, I would, tell my agent, don't submit me for anything that's going to happen around August, September, October, because, I've got Shriek Fest and it's crazy busy. But this past year, I was like, you know what, just keep submitting me, because I'm going to trust that it's all going to work out somehow. And it was crazy because the week of the festival, before it started, that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the festival started on Thursday, I had like crazy amount of auditions. I'm running around trying to get Shriek Fest done, plus I'm prepping these auditions and doing auditions, and I just kept saying, you know what, I love it. It's all going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. If I can't get it all done, someone's going to come forward and help me with it. And I just really trusted, and it all worked out. Wow.
Yeah, you have to have an amazing team, and obviously a pretty huge team over there as well.
I wish it were huge, but I do have some key people that they've got my back. And what I learned this year is they really have my back, and I need to trust that more.
Right. And did you start out, when you first started Shriek Fest, did you start out with 40 judges?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was probably like 5.
Oh.
whoever you could think to get it, because it's a tough job, really.
Yeah.
Because there's no way they can watch and read everything, which is why I have so many. So what they do is they help narrow down. So we have like definitely yes piles, definitely maybe, and definitely probably not. And we get everything narrowed down, and there's times we have to go back and rewatch or reread scripts, and because the yes pile, you would think everything in the yes pile would get in the festival. Well, there's too many. Right.
So you got to go deeper.
That's where you have to start looking at the scores and how do they score high, and then you have to also make sure, okay, did that judge score it so high because of when he watched it, or did he really think it was that high? So then, like, you might have 2 films with the exact same score. Well, now you have him watch them again. Which one did he like better?
Okay. Now,
it's really complicated.
Now the magazine's top 13 festivals to die for. Did that have any? did that title have anything to do with the fact that it was a horror festival?
Yes, it did. Yes.
Okay.
It was comparing all horror film festivals.
Okay.
So that was actually a huge honor.
Right.
Because, like I said, there's a horror film festival on every corner now. So that particular contest was just horror film festivals.
Oh, wow.
Whereas that, the top 25 worth the entry fee, that was all genre festivals.
Oh, and so horror was in particular about the horror film. So you got the film, the entry fee, but then you even managed to break it down to the horror film festival itself.
Right.
Which was more in depth. Another wonderful feeling for you, I assume.
Yes, Yes, it was, yeah, another shocker, but all great.
Wow. Now, okay, so we touched on some of the movies coming up. Now, what project do you feel like, if you can say, what project do you feel like will be coming out in the nearest future for people to look for?
I Saw the Light will be probably the nearest one, and that's going to be 2015. I don't know exactly which month.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be shooting that, the one that goes to Scotland and stuff in April.
Okay.
And then I've just been offered another role.
Wow.
And that's going to probably shoot in May in Louisiana. It's amazing how many things are going to Louisiana.
Yeah, you know what? I actually sometimes I hear about that too. And what is it about? Is the film industry, is it good land to shoot on? Is it the price
the tax
better?
incentives, they're huge.
Oh, okay.
So let's say you have a $26 million movie, your tax incentive could be $7 million.
In other words, meaning you're paying $7 million in taxes.
No, you're writing that off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're still into acting, you really should try to get an agent in Louisiana and cash in on some of this work since you're nearby.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, not too far, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I am going to look into that because I do plan to leak my acting skills out in the near future. So.
Yes, and you should. And Atlanta, too. Holy smokes, Atlanta has like 10 plus TV shows.
Really? And, you know, I'm right. Okay, that's good to know, too, because, I mean, you know, here in North Carolina, as a matter of fact, you know, where I'm at right now, there are a few. But then not too long ago, I was reading, you know, I was reading some literature, and they were talking about how some budget got cut here, and they weren't giving as much money for people to do films, or maybe it was a tax thing, but... So yeah, so that kind of shook things up, and it kind of threw me off, because I was like, okay... Now, as soon as I feel like I might want to get into it, I think I should move, right? So,
right. It's crazy because my family's in Florida, and so I kept hearing from my agents in the South that there's tons of work. So that's why I put myself on tape a lot, because I'm taping for all the production shooting there.
Oh, okay.
It's crazy how much stuff. I mean, this week alone, I taped for 3 projects already.
Wow. And taping, like when you tape, are you just kind of making a reel yourself to be able to send, or do they send you a script, or?
You have the script. I used to pay someone to tape me because I didn't think I could handle it all myself, and then I got a nice camera and lighting and all that, and so then you tape yourself with a reader. The reader's off camera, just like an audition, basically, but you have to be memorized.
Right. Okay.
And and then you send that via email to your agent. They get to the casting, and I would say 90% of things in the South are cast and booked off of tape.
Oh.
They don't even hold in-person auditions for most of it.
Okay. Okay. You know, and I wonder that too. Like, you know, sometimes I wonder, me just really. Now, I've done some extras in quite a few movies, but actually trying to, you know, do the acting thing itself, I would always wonder, you know, for a beginner, for someone who's just trying to get into the industry,
right?
Does it still make sense to actually go get an agent, or agent's going to turn? I always wonder, like, are agents going to turn me down for representing me because, you know, I haven't had a lead role or nothing yet?
Probably. It depends on like how much stuff you've done.
Right.
There may be some that will bring you on knowing they're only going to submit you on small roles, which is fine.
Right.
Because there's a lot of stuff, and with all these things, part of the tax incentive is that they are required to cast so much of their film locally. So all those small roles have to go to local actors, and that's where someone like you could completely cash in because you are local. Right,
but then it kind of comes down to a matter of, I guess, finding the agencies that are really like getting to work too.
Right, and I say it's worth a try. You know, if you have headshots and you have somewhat of a resume, you know, maybe locally do try to there's got to be agents locally in North Carolina, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, in like some different places, yeah, because you got Raleigh. You know, I'm not too far from Raleigh.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a huge casting facility actually in North Carolina, the Finn Cannons. Have you heard of them?
No, I hadn't.
It's Craig and Mark and Lisa.
Okay.
And they're all related. I think they might be brothers and sisters or husband and wife, something. But they cast the majority of things in the South, and they're right in North Carolina.
Oh, I have to ring them up or get them a call us up to.
Yeah, and send a headshot over, a postcard or something. Introduce yourself.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Look, I appreciate that. That is some great knowledge. Like, you know what I'm saying, or something to know. Because I had been lost in that. You know me. You know, being the talk show guy, I feel like I'm good at that craft. But you know, at the same time, I wanted to get my feet wet elsewhere too. Listen, Denise, it's been wonderful talking to you. I think we waited like what, 2 weeks?
I know. Yes, it has been great. Thank you so much, Keith.
Absolutely. Listen, for everybody out there in Radio Land listening right now, this is the wonderful Denise Gossett. I'm assuming everybody should know who you are right now, but if they don't, make sure you go check out all her upcoming films. And look, as a matter of fact, just go look into the archive, and so many things that you have gone by, you'll catch her in too. Denise, we love you. Keep up the great work, and make sure you come back again after. Matter of fact, when is Shriek Fest coming up again?
It will be like October 1st through the 4th of 2015.
Okay,
so we just had it.
Okay. Well, either way, after some of these films come out, make sure you come back and talk to us again.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
Sounds wonderful. Continue. Congratulations and continue success. And we love you, Denise, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Same to you, Keith. And if you have any more questions about the South, ask me. I'll help you out if I can.
Oh, thank you, and I will make sure I do, because I've got plenty of questions. So.
All right. You have a great rest of your evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Denise Gossett, everybody. Wonderful, accomplished, multi-talented actress, founder of the film festival. I could go on for hours.